Welcome to Reporter's Notebook, where we talk to the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the stories breaking on their beats. I'm Jim Antle. I'm joined today by energy and environment reporter Jeremy Beaman. Jeremy, there was a sort of pre-4th of July weekend news dump by the Biden administration, had some significant environmental implications. What did they kind of try to sneak in under the radar on us?
This is at least the third time they've done this. They've released a sort of big expected announcement right before a holiday weekend. So the first was back in November. They released this oil and gas leasing report that recommended reforms. They did that on Black Friday. Then on Good Friday, they announced that they were going to restart onshore oil and gas leasing.
Right.
And then this most recent Friday ahead of the 4th of July, they announced the proposed program for offshore drilling. And so basically, under federal law, if the Interior Department is going to carry out any offshore leases, they're going to sell any offshore parcels for oil and gas development. The government has to create a 5-year plan in order to sort of contemplate is the word they use, provide for these sales. Where are the sales going to be? When could they be? As specifically as possible. And so there's a multi-step process. So this was the step called the proposed program step. So basically, Interior came in and said, we're proposing to hold up to 11 offshore oil and gas lease sales. Now, recall that President Joe Biden said on the campaign trail that he wanted to end leasing on federal lands.
Right.
He said it a number of different ways. He said he wanted to end drilling offshore. He also said he wanted to end leasing. Those are two different things, but they're sort of encompassed in the federal government's authorities to allow land to be made available for oil and gas. And so, of course, the administration's overwhelming policy objective is to lower and reduce demand of fossil fuels in order to mitigate climate change. But with this proposed program, they proposed to hold sales, and that's sort of contrary to what Biden had said that he wanted to do. Now, there's still some wiggle room and discretion that the department has. This is not a final program by any means, and the department made clear, Secretary Deb Haaland made clear that they still may not. They still have the discretion to not carry out any sales, but the fact that they proposed any at all really frustrated environmental groups who wanted them to use their authority and say, we're not going to do any.
But the fact that they're making this concession, at least in theory, on paper, is driven by cost concerns, by the economic situation, or?
It could be that those have to be present. They're not being forward about that. But there have been court rulings that not in their final stages. There hasn't been anything yet rise to the Supreme Court level. But at the district court level, at least one court has said the administration does not have the authority to pause oil and gas lease sales. And so that's what basically the administration has pointed to so far in saying we have to basically do this to carry out lease sales, at least on the onshore level, in order to comply with this ruling. They're appealing that ruling in particular. The offshore stuff is a little bit different. A different law covers it. But the administration has the leeway now to say we're going to let the public weigh in. We propose holding some sales, but we may determine after the comment period or our full environmental analysis that no sales are needed or fewer sales are needed than the max they proposed.
So that wasn't the only bit of fireworks the Biden administration set off, but in this other example is really a tweet. We thought presidents tweeting no longer caused major controversy, but in this particular case, President Biden did. What did he have to say about gas stations, and why did that sort of trigger a little bit of a backlash?
It probably would have gone sort of more under the radar had Jeff Bezos not responded to it. But basically, Biden, from his official POTUS Twitter account, went after, quote, companies behind gas those who run gas stations, which is a range of different small businesses to large corporations. There's not any one sort of business model necessarily. But he said basically you guys should lower your prices closer to, he said something like what you pay for the product. Now, as we've seen, especially in the last few weeks, fuel prices, commodity prices have been oscillating. Oil prices are way down. Which means, at some point gas prices should start falling, and they already have. But the administration has not been, the White House particularly, has not been pleased at how slowly they perceive them to fall. Now, some analysts have noted that this lag in falling oil prices and gas prices goes both ways. When oil prices rise, nobody's really looking to see how fast gas prices rise. They're much more sensitive, some have said, to the differential between oil and gasoline prices when oil is falling, because they're like, well, ready to see this price impact. But in any case, the sort of pushback has largely been that this is a kind of a fundamental misunderstanding, maybe, of the market reality in the White House. So there has been this
Econ 101.
Right. Oil has, in general, cost more. There's less refining capacity. It costs more to manufacture gasoline right now. And so these stations, according to at least one trade group I've spoken to that represents several tens of thousands of them, so they don't like this. Like their margins on gasoline aren't high anyway. They make money on the candy and the soda and the beer.
Cans of Pringles and
the cans of Pringles and whatever else they sell in the store. Gasoline doesn't make them money.
Right.
And so
cigarettes, which the Biden administration doesn't like either.
Juul, as
Juul.
well. So in general, just the pushback has been that frustration with the Biden administration for singling out retailers now after they've sort of gone after oil and gas companies.
Yeah, I mean, so in some ways Bezos is not a bad foil for the Biden White House. He's obviously a very rich person. Clearly they've wanted to go after the big corporations, the big oil and big gas companies, but this does hit some mom and pop retailers, at least if you take the tweet at face value.
Yeah. Well, some 60% of retail fuel stations are owned by single store operators, mom and pops.
Right.
And then you have like the bigger chains, Flying J and Speedway and whoever else.
Right.
That they have a larger operation though, and actually, they have an operation that allows they can hire analysts to watch the market, to splash fuel on trucks with a little bit of cheaper gasoline, that enable them to sort of be more competitive. Whereas the single store operators don't usually have that advantage. And it's causing more consolidation actually at this moment.
So what's going on in the liquefied natural gas front?
It's complicated, but basically, as we talked about, Europe is trying to get more liquefied natural gas. It's getting more from the United States. The Biden administration wants to get Europe more liquefied natural gas. But we're seeing this sort of strange alignment right now, actually, between some environmental groups, and you put some congressional Democrats in this group too, who want an export ban, and some industry trade groups, manufacturers that make chemicals, other energy-intensive industries, that don't necessarily support a full export ban, but that want restrictions on LNG exports, because gas prices, natural gas prices in the United States, until the last week, we talked about this change in commodity prices, they've been at the highest price in like 13 years, basically, until they just recently fallen. And so we've seen this alignment, as I said, between environmental groups and some of these trade groups that want to see restrictions on exports. We want to keep more of this gas at home, so the prices can be cheaper here. And one thing that both have been pointing to has been this explosion at this liquefaction terminal on the Gulf Coast. It happened early June, knocked off 2 billion cubic feet per day of our LNG export capacity, and prices have fallen since then. And most analysts that I've seen
for Americans, right?
What's that?
For Americans.
In the U.S. Excuse me. Something different's been happening in Europe. We'll talk about that maybe in another video. But yeah, prices have fallen in the U.S. since then, and so they're all pointing to this and saying, see, we need to keep more of this gas at home. Less going to Europe and China and wherever else means that our prices fall. And so that they've been, at the administration's feet, really asking them, please, let's tone down the LNG exports. That's contrary to what the Biden administration wants to do, as I said.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Thanks.
You can read Jeremy and subscribe to our Daily on Energy newsletter at washingtonexaminer.com.